Welcome to the Live Your Dreams podcast, where success leaves clues and someone has your answer. As always, we're starting off with a quote. And today we're going to be talking about boundaries. So let's listen to this quote. The only real conflict you will ever have in your life won't be with others, but with yourself. That's Shannon Edler. That's a good one. That's really a good one. So let's talk about boundaries. You know, Zig Ziglar told a funny story. Just imagine if you had a white carpet and someone came in and they threw dirt on your white carpet. How would you react? How would you respond? Now think about that. You would be upset. You would be livid. Now think about the white carpet. Now think about this. People come every day and they put garbage in your brain. And we do nothing about it. We allow it. But for a white carpet, we would go tit for tat. Before our brain all day, someone could put garbage on it and we'll do nothing about it. So let's talk about boundaries. It's a couple of things. It's a funny story. When I was in UDC, the University of the District of Columbia, it was a funny story that happened to me. I was in class one day, and the professor was going on. He was talking about different philosophies. So I was a little confused. I mean, you got to think, I wasn't exposed to that. So I was confused because I only had one train of thought. So after class, I called him as we were walking through the campus. I said, "Excuse me, Dr. Brown, can I ask you a question?" And I was a little nervous to ask it, but I asked. I said, "Dr. Brown, please tell me, with all these different philosophies and ways of thought, who's right?" And Dr. Brown looked at me and with certainty, he said, "You are." And I was taken aback. I'm saying to myself, me? How am I right? I don't even have a philosophy. And that day, I made up in my mind that I'll have a philosophy. And with my philosophy, I'll set boundaries to ensure nobody throw dirt on my white carpet. So it's a couple of things that I set my boundaries up with. First and foremost, I already talked about work ethic. I have a huge work ethic. Now, I have missed so many picnics. I've missed so many barbecues. I missed a lot because I had such a work ethic. But I have a boundary because it's a goal or it's a lifestyle that I want to live. Okay? Family is very important to me. But I know without a work ethic, you can't do any of that. So one of the things, let's look at it. It's a couple of things that I set boundaries up with. First and foremost, let's look at time. Okay? I wake up very early in the morning because it's certain things I need to do for myself in order to have a great day before I even start my day. So I wake up very early. That's a boundary between 5:30 to 7. Usually that time is for Maurice. Now I may do some other things. I may read. I may do some other things. But in that time, if there's anything that Maurice needs, I give it to me. Whether it's exercise, whether it's reading a different book, a book that I may want to read, not a required reading, maybe a book I want to read. It's time that I get to myself, where I get to actually relax and be Maurice. So set some boundaries up with your time. Have some time where it's just for you. Now this is just a recommendation, and this is all about living your dreams. This is just to give you recommendations so that you can say one day, who's right? You are. So these are just ideas, just to set some type of perspective for you. Also, I have boundaries with my health. Now, with my health, I have boundaries for certain reasons. And I just went to my physical, my yearly annual physical. True story, my mom actually died of colon cancer. And her parents died also of a similar cause. Now, I thought for sure I was going to die of colon cancer. I thought it was certain. I thought it was hereditary. Until I went to see a doctor who said, hey, colon cancer is one of the most preventable cancers there are. And I couldn't believe that because I said, how can my mother be gone if this is such a preventable disease? Well, first and foremost, when I was 35, I was able to get my first colonoscopy because I'm African American, and because it was a huge in my family trait. So I was able to get a colonoscopy. That first colonoscopy, they actually found polyps. Now, I'm not saying if those polyps would have been in me at my age now, it would have turned into cancer. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that now I have the knowledge. I've already had 3 colonoscopies. So I have boundaries around my health. I go to the doctor routinely. And again, I would recommend that you go see your doctor, especially for men. I would definitely, at a minimum, go to your annual physical. Now, I go to several doctors. I have lupus, so I go to several doctors, primarily a dermatologist. So I can't even go in the sun without protecting and putting layers on. So I have health boundaries. There's certain things I just won't do. Funny, I have so much in my mind for when I'm growing up that kind of allows me to put boundaries on. One day, one of my mentors, I went to see him. He owned apartment buildings. So he actually went into one of the apartment buildings. He said, hey, just trying to show me something. He said, hey, how are you today? And he was talking to a young lady. She was like, I'm doing okay. So he said, hey, Maurice, you want to make sure, this young lady, had some type of addiction. And he said, Maurice, if you don't believe anything I say, work hard to not get addicted to certain things, because the outcome could be very bad for you. So these are boundaries. People who care about you set up boundaries for you. But the number one person who needs to set these boundaries up are you. You have to care about yourself. You have to set these boundaries up. So time is important. Health is important. And also family. Family is important. I set boundaries up with my family. Now, how do you set boundaries up with your family? My wife and I, we go out a lot. We spend certain private time together. Now, my whole family, with all my children, we go on vacations. Now, it's been a tradition. We go on annual vacations, sometime 2 a year. Definitely 1 a year. Sometime 2 a year. Most of the time, it's 2 a year that we go every year. It's boundaries. Now, you can work hard throughout the year, but when you're on vacation, that's the time where I take and I unplug, and I really spend quality time with the family, have some fun, have some laughs. And that's the way I set my boundaries up. So first and foremost, what I would have you to think about, because remember, this is live your dreams. What I would think about, first and foremost, you have a philosophy, and you are right. So you have to figure that out. Once you figure that out, your philosophy, once you figure out that you're right, then you start to set the boundaries. Now, I chose to set my boundaries with time, health, and family. Now, you can set your boundaries with other things. But first and foremost, you have to know your philosophy, and you have to know what you want to set your boundaries up for. If that makes sense, I want to define what boundaries really mean. Okay? Boundary, a line that marks the limit of an area, a dividing line. A boundary is an invisible line you draw around yourself to identify what is acceptable behavior and what is unacceptable behavior. The beauty of boundary is that they are fluid and ever evolving. Now, I like that. One of the things I want you to know about boundaries is that they're ever evolving. They're always changing. When you grow, your boundaries grow. Let me stop. When I first started out, maybe when I was 21, let's say 21, I was still trying to figure this out. And I never forget, I was in someone's office and we were talking. And I mean, we were just, and then I had such a huge sense of entitlement where I thought something should have been given to me. I had a huge sense of entitlement. So work on your sense of it, that no one owes you anything. But we were talking, and then all of a sudden, the lady said, "Hey, Maurice, I just want to apologize to you because life isn't fair." And it clicked for me. I said, you know what? First and foremost, this is something I should have learned when I was 5, right? I'm in my 20s learning that life isn't fair. I should have learned this when I was 5. So now it clicked on me. Hey, Maurice, life isn't fair. So if you know life isn't fair, right? Why don't you program your life around that? Knowing that, hey, life isn't fair. No one owes you anything. It's all up to you. And you have to come up with your philosophy. And once you get your philosophy, you set up boundaries to ensure that no one can infringe on that. Because again, your success in living your dreams is up to you. Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. Henry Ford said that. You're right. It's up to you. Do you believe that you can live your dreams? And last week I talked about that Les Brown quote, which was amazing. He said, making my first $1 million was the easy part. But convincing myself I could do it, that was the hard part. It's all up here. Living your dreams. Every week when I come, it's really going to go way back to, straight back to the number one principle. It's all up here. It's up to you. You have to take complete ownership of that. But boundaries are important. So make sure throughout the week, set you some boundaries up. Whether it's waking up a little early to get some time for yourself. Whether it's cutting back on some certain food for better health. Whether it's taking that vacation you always wanted to take with your family. Set up boundaries to live your dream. Because one thing I know for sure, tomorrow is not promised. You have to do it today. If you want to live your dream, you have to start today. Start where you are. Wake up a little early tomorrow. Start it now. Because you can live your dream. I know you can. So, one of the things I want to do is end with a quote. And I have a good one here. Now, this one says, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. This is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice. Brené Brown. In conclusion, I just want to go off of that. Think about what she just said. If you don't set boundaries and someone comes and approaches your boundary, which was not set by you, you somewhat become not the victim, but the abuser. And then they get mistreated by your lack of dealing with the situation. And instead of you just addressing it, they would have been less hurt if you just would have addressed it. Say, hey, look, I don't want you to do that. Now, one of the things, just give you a quick tip before I close. One of the things I always try to work on, and this is what I work on, is my communication. And especially when my wife and I communicate. I work hard, and I'm not saying I'm perfect or I do this, but I work hard to say, hey, you did this. I work hard not to do that. Because that's one of the things I learned that's very hurtful. So I'm not saying I don't do it, but just a tip. I just thought about it when I read the quote. I work hard not to say you. Because again, that actually is very hurtful. Alright, so other than that, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you like what you heard, please subscribe, like, and share. You should support that which support you. And as always, I'll see you. And yes, I do mean you, living your dreams. Thank you.